Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into, as promised, as there was breaking news, another edition number 2, episode number 2 of Judd's Hockey Show today. Judd and AJ, and appreciate all of you who have jumped on board to watch this. So, AJ, I was on the couch after doing the Twins and Vikings shows with Phil and Declan today, and I was thinking, we were really negative in today's show. Free agency starts tomorrow, and we were really sort of salty, and I didn't regret it, but I did think to myself, I wonder if we could have been more positive. And then the news breaks, and let me tell you, we weren't salty enough, because if you have missed this, I'm guessing if you are watching us now, you know about this. The Wild has made a trade with the Detroit Red Wings. Future considerations go to the Motor City. 34 on December 13th. He's 33 right now. Right winger Vlad Tarasenko is acquired by your Wild. Let's go through what we know about this acquisition and then react to it. Okay, Age?
All right, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here's what we know. We know that Tarasenko will be entering his 14th year. 11 years with the Blues, in which he was an all-star on 3 occasions. A full year last year with the Red Wings, and in between stints with the Rangers, the Panthers, and the Senators. He had last season 11 goals and 33 points, was a -13, 1 power play goal in 80 games. He's an aging player. This trade, by the way, would have been fantastic in 2015-16 when he scored 40 goals, including, I'm sure, a bunch against the Wild with the Blues, or in 2021-22 when he scored a career-high 82 points again with the Blues. According to Michael Russo of The Athletic, he is Tarasenko projected to be a second-line center here. And also, as far as that scoring winger that we were counting on for Christmas Day, July 1st, that looks to be out the window because, according to Mike, the Wild weren't comfortable with the term that was being asked for from Ehlers, Besser, or Granlund, who, by the way, I wouldn't have given term to either. And then the cherry on top. Tarasenko is old, but he ain't cheap. He is signed for 1 more year at $4.75 million. He is the 4th highest paid Wild forward immediately. And this move leaves the Wild with $12.95 million with other moves to make in cap space, which means that they probably will sign a bottom 6 center tomorrow, and that will be it. I am more confused than ever. How does this feels like, without any research age, without anything like this feels like the July 4th day way back when the Wild acquired Danny Heatley, who had been a big-time goal scorer, and it's like, Danny Heatley, and of course he didn't do a thing. How does this fix anything?
Well, I'll tell you what, just like Perch56 here says in the chat for people watching live on YouTube, maybe you're listening to this later, he says, Santa skipped the Wild's house this Christmas. We'll get ready for a very lackluster amount of presents under the tree. July 1st, July 2nd. There's not going to be anything. There might be a giant lump of coal in Bill Guerin's stocking after this move. I'm not exactly sure. This tells me that they don't like the situation because they've been sitting around for so long and they've been able to do almost nothing, handcuffed potentially by not being able to move on from Marco Rossi because they don't feel like they're getting suitable offers back and they don't want to let him go for 50 cents on the dollar. So now if you're not willing to commit to a term for a Besser or an Ehlers, let's keep in mind, like, you become a UFA when you turn 26 years old in the NHL. Like, that's when you're eligible. These guys are 2 and 3 years beyond that. They're going to want to cash in before the new CBA where you can't sign for, 7 years with just any team. So they're looking for that. That's the price of poker. Like, do you want to sign a quality guy or not? It sounds like not. So instead, what they're doing is, you take on this for less than $5 million. $4.75 million for a guy that scored 33 points last year is, that's just not good. It's a guy who he's in his mid 30s. He's now going to be a second line winger. And I'm not as I would say I'm not as mad about acquiring him as I am just about the whole situation. Like this is where it's frustration building up for me, Judd. I don't know about you or maybe some of the people listening to this as well, but I mean, you go from a calendar year ago saying, you know what, it's going to be like Christmas. We've got a list. We're checking it twice. We've got all of these guys on this list for the Minnesota Wild, and we're going to spend. Now we come to the time where Christmas Day is upon us. It's Christmas Eve. And all of a sudden, the parents are taking down the tree and we're putting stuff back in boxes and stuff is going back up in the attic. And it's like, what's going on? Tomorrow's the big celebration. No, too bad. You're going to be stuck with maybe an orange and a rock.
But explain the contract. He's not cheap.
No, it's not.
He's not cheap. And so, like, are you, like, is this guy in a top 6 role, you know, again, he turns 34 on December 13th. Is he going to help you make a run? Like that's my question is, I understand the issues now, and I get the fact that the market being picked through or guys staying with teams makes it difficult. But my question is, what does this do? Like, if he was signed cheap and you were going to say, okay, we'll see how it works out. I mean, again, he had 11 goals and 33 points, was a minus 13 in 80 games with Detroit last season. I've got a few thoughts here. I'll go through them. And
okay.
And you react. Number one thought, and he's already got his friend Zuki here, but is this somehow done to appease Kirill? Like, you're hoping to keep Kirill, so you're signing, like, I'm trying to think through why this was done. Like, if this was your move, I'm sorry, Tarasenko's not my guy. So was this a Kirill move with him eligible to sign a contract extension? I don't know. Are they buddies? Mm-hmm. Was Tarasenko a mentor? I'm totally speculating. But what is the plausibility that this is we want to keep Kirill, we want to make him happy? And by the way, we know that we are not going to get a really good player. And so it's not like we are going to sign that center that Kirill was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever.
Well, I had a few people on Twitter reach out to me, like respond to me saying, yeah, I said something along the lines of like, I'm already sick of this upcoming season and it's not even July yet. But some people pointed out that apparently Kirill, they said idolized, but, you know, being a Russian, looking up to Vladimir Tarasenko, and I understand that, he probably was a big fan of him when he was in his like teenage years. Now he's a 28-year-old man. It's probably kind of cool. Similar to if you relate it to like basketball, Anthony Edwards looks up to Kevin Durant. Would that be cool? Yes. But the thing is there's very much in debate of, is that the right player for the Minnesota Wild? Is Kevin Durant the right player for the Minnesota Timberwolves? Right now, I think you could say he doesn't really bring much other than like the nostalgic factor of, hey, remember when he, you know, put up 40 in that one season? Remember he was on the cover of NHL 17? Wow, what a great player. He really hasn't been that type of guy. He's been looking to find that, like some guys are able to sustain a high level of play into their mid to late 30s. We've seen it drop off for him. He's not one of those guys like John Tavares, kind of different guy, but he's 37. They're going to be 38, I want to say. And he's still playing at a relatively high level. Tarasenko, I just don't think does that. And maybe now in a situation where he might have more leeway to like play a certain way or whatever. I think it's easy to say that there's higher expectations for the Wild this coming season than the Red Wings, considering like the recent past couple of years. But if it's a signing where you had 3 guys on the docket and it's like, well, let's go with the Russian because that's going to keep Kirill happy, because we know we're not going to get the high quality scoring winger in the free agency because we don't want to commit to a certain term. I understand that, but it's really stupid to me that is the rationale there. You know, it's a lot of money for just because he's Russian, just because he's, you know, a fellow Ruski. And also, does that tell you, maybe it does, maybe I'm overthinking this now, if that's like that feels like a desperation move of, we're not sure he's willing to commit, so we have to get a Russian guy to like further cement and like, well, hey, look what we're willing to do to keep you in here.
Yeah. But so
I don't know.
So Mike's tweet says that Tarasenko's projected to play on the second line, which means that the first line theoretically would be Eriksson, Kaprizov, and either Zuccarello or Boldy, and whichever one of those right wingers is not on the first line will be on the second line, which would give you Tarasenko, Rossi, I mean, I don't know who's the second line if Rossi is traded. Now, here's the other thought that I wrote down.
I can't believe we're doing
And he is not a right winger. But does this mean that Liam Ogren is about to be traded? Because so right now your top wings, your top on your top two lines, your top wings are Zuccarello, Kaprizov, Boldy, who I guess would play on the left wing, Tarasenko. So Marcus Johansson, who is back, now bumps down to the third line. Now I was hoping he would be third line regardless, and that Ogren would get his chance. But does this mean that we're about to get a Rossi-Ogren trade that's going to bring back a center? That's the other. I guess that would be. I don't love the idea of trading Ogren, but I guess in trying to justify this, that would be my other thought. Is this now opens up the door to trade for one, because what's left on the market, as we discussed on episode 1 today of JHS, is certainly nothing to write home about. And certainly there's nobody on the market at a center position right now who would be upgraded all on Rossi. In fact, Rossi would be the best guy if he was a UFA left on the market.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Do you think they make this move if they don't feel like they have, because obviously we're not in the rooms. We aren't in these discussions, but I think it feels.
No, if we were, we'd stop this nonsense.
Oh, absolutely. This deal wouldn't have happened. But it feels like you don't make this move if you don't have something in place, because Liam Ogren being frozen out again does no good. Like him,
right?
He's to a point in his career, he has to start playing at the NHL level, or you move on from him. It's not back in Iowa. You can't go back there again for him. So
yeah,
I think you're right. But like, when is that going to happen? Is that going to happen here? I'm trying to refresh.
Well, you need to do it. I'd like to do it today. Don't forget, if Rossi hits the market tomorrow, he can sign an offer sheet. Now, I believe that you can still work a trade off of that. It's confusing.
Yeah.
But like ideally within the next, I don't know, by 5 o'clock today, if you're going to do that, you make that trade, but you have to make damn sure. If you make that trade, you have to make damn sure that you win the trade as far as the one player goes. So like there's no, he is as good as Rossi. If you're going to trade Rossi, Ogren, hypothetically a draft pick, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You need to win that trade. But I mean, that's the only, in my mind, and I still don't like this because Tarasenko's old, but in my mind, that's the only conclusion that I can come to about what's unfolding behind the scenes here. Because if you look at the available list of centers left as of 11 a.m. tomorrow who are UFAs, I don't think there's one name on that list that they would sign, and we would flip on the mics and be like, okay, yeah, I see this.
Yeah.
There's nobody. So that's my only thought, is that they are on the verge, and again, this is just completely reckless speculation, of trading Ogren in a Rossi deal.
So the other thing I'm just thinking about too here is like just under 5 million. That puts, I mean, that's a lot of cap space. And let's say it works out. Let's say it does. He finds some new life here in Minnesota and he flourishes. Maybe he eventually gets put on a line with Kaprizov and they have some Russian chemistry and whatever, and that works out great. But then you come to the trade deadline and now you're kind of strapped for cash, because if you are, and this is in a world too where I'm thinking they do go out and they trade and acquire some type of center that is, of high value, like high AAV, that's going to handcuff you. So
I mean, that's what they say they don't want. But at the same time, if you know that Rossi is going to leave and he signs a restricted free agent offer sheet that you don't match, you're going to get draft pick compensation. As the kids say, make it make sense. Like I'm literally trying to go through my head here, because this move for Tarasenko indicates that you say, you know what? We think that he had a bad year in Detroit, but that he can still score, 25 goals or more, and that we can win. So if that's the case, then Rossi can't leave. He either can't leave, or you have to make a trade that gets you what you just said, which is a center who is well compensated now because he's damn good. Hey, can you put up the comment from Tyler at 12:51 about a potential line? Tyler has, Tarasenko Yurov, and Besser would be a great second line if you subtract Rossi. Tyler, here's the problem. When has John Hines shown that he'll play the kid? Like, what's the precedent for you to think? And look, I'm not debating you. I'm debating the situation. Like, what have we seen track record wise that says that, on opening night that kid would even be considered second line? I guarantee you right now, if Rossi is gone and they don't get sufficient return, I can almost guarantee you Ryan Hartman will get that job. And I don't agree with it, but it sure is the way things have broken. And John Hines, I don't think, correct me if you think I'm wrong, John Hines has shown no propensity to play kids.
No, I mean, we've talked about it before, and I think that he should be a third line center to start the year, but I think I'm more optimistic about it than anything. And what I know about this team is that if I say that, he's going to be a fourth line winger. Like, they're not even going to play him there, even though he's made the move. Like, whatever I think, I feel like I have to take a step down. So he'll probably be a fourth line guy to start the year. He's just too good for that, though. So he should be on the third. There's zero chance he is a top six center to start the season. Even if you take out Marco Rossi and you trade for a winger back, you're exactly right. Ryan Hartman will be the guy that slots in there because, if I know maybe there's a trade opportunity for him, and who knows what he's turning in on his modified trade list by this time tomorrow. But like they just seem to trust him more, even despite like the temper tantrums and the anger and stuff and being kind of reckless and whatnot at times. They're not going to give that to a guy who is, fresh in the league, right, young, doesn't have the repertoire. Correct. Like, they're not going to entrust him with the second line center role, correct, unfortunately. Yep. And maybe fortunately to start. Do you think I'm just looking at here because they haven't added on cap wages Tarasenko to the Wild stuff here, but would it be at all funny if Detroit come this time tomorrow extends that qualifying offer with their first and third to Marco Rossi, and so they pretty much just say, hey, take this guy now, also we're going to put you in a position to either pony up or not. Like, this is going so poorly. Like, this offseason so far is not even really underway fully yet for the Wild, and it feels like there's zero way that they can like come out winners.
So we did just get a text that said the buzz is that the Wild are going to make another move. So that might be this trade. I don't know. That's all it says. But yeah, like if for this to make any sense at all, something else needs to come down the pike, and perhaps that will change our view. I still don't think I'm going to, just individually or separately, if they make a trade that I like, I still don't think I'm going to say, you know what, the Tarasenko, that's money well spent. Now he's got a year left, but in some ways this also feels like that the Wild is trying to position itself for July 1st of 2026. So like that's where this also gets intriguing. And certainly if there is another trade, we will jump on here and talk about it. But right now, and this is the danger of trying to react in real time when things are incredibly fluid. Right now, I would say that if I was to grade a Tarasenko trade, I understand it's for future considerations, which is probably a late round draft pick. But when you're going to take on $4.8 million, essentially, I would give this trade about a D. I would give it about a D because unless you think he's going to bounce back and become a guy that he has not been for a few years here, I don't, of all of the available options, and I know from a compensation standpoint, this came cheap, don't love it.
I agree with the D. Like, maybe you could go D+, but the thing is, I hate it right now. Ask me in 6 hours, because if they're making another move, like if them acquiring this and now really forcing their own hand to, we have to move out on Ogren, and then like we've been talking about, you're going to package him with Rossi, probably one of your picks in the next couple of drafts here. Depending on what the return there is, maybe it's fine. And like in the grand scheme of things, if you tell me like
be really good,
it's got to be really good though. And that's the problem. That's the thing.
That's the problem. It's got to be if you're going to trade Rossi and Ogren and a draft pick, you need to get a guy who is your clear-cut number one center. And those are hard to find. And perhaps they've done it. I don't know. But it can't be a center that is like, oh, he's okay, or he could be a top six guy. I want a guy that allows Eriksson Ek to slot in where God intended, and that is slotting in as a second line guy. He's really good at that.
Let me ask you this, because we sit here right now in the dark for potential Minnesota Wild moves on June 30th here. If you're this move they're expecting, give me like the names that you think would you be pleased with a return. And there's like, you're throwing a first round in there, a third round in there too, like the picks, whatever, but it's Rossi, Ogren picks for gimme guys that you're going to think, yes, that is well worth it, because this is going to be hilarious to look back on in 48 hours when it doesn't live up to any of these names.
I got to look at some names here. The obvious one that comes to mind, because we've talked about it a bunch, but I don't think he's being traded, is Tage Thompson of Buffalo. That one comes immediately. I saw
Friedman report on his 32 Thoughts podcast that they're not shopping him, but they are taking interested calls, is what I'll say. So, I mean, to stick with Detroit, I'll say Dylan Larkin. I mean, he's making quite a bit, 8.7 mil, but he's going to be through the next handful of years into like 2031, I want to say. Tage Thompson. I know Vancouver's kind of shaking things up. Would you Elias Pettersson like Morgan here throws in?
Comment about that one. Here's my problem. I think he's incredibly talented. I have real trepidation about what transpired there.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to know, if you're the Wild, you need to be 100% positive that he was not culpable. I find it interesting that JT Miller, who is an incredibly competitive player and good, couldn't coexist with him.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there was blame to be shared, but yes. Now, Pettersson, the thing there too is, if you pick him up and it's still a problem, he's now signed long-term, and that does exactly what you said, which is now your cap shrinks by a lot. And if there's a problem there, I think Thompson, Larkin for sure. I mean, you know what? What if this did, and again, this is completely reckless speculation, but if this were to open up the door to the Tarasenko trade, to conversations that started with Steve Yzerman, Bill Guerin, two players from the 80s and absolutely loved, but started with a conversation about Larkin. Dylan Larkin would really intrigue me. I'd love that.
I would too. But
I'd give up a lot to get him or Tage Thompson. Pettersson I would have a year ago. I just have some real concerns about what happened with the Canucks, because that thing went that thing didn't just go sideways. It went 6 ways sideways to Sunday.
Well, I'll tell you what, just for the sake of news here, the 12 minutes ago, the Canucks put out that they agreed to a 2-year contract deal or extension with Aatu Raty, who is Finnish, recently drafted, young center. So that adds to their center pool of Philip Cheadle, Teddy Bluger. Pia Suter is a pending UFA there, but
I'm not interested.
No, but Elias Pettersson currently on the books at age 26, 11.6 mil. That does fit within the cap space currently allotted by the Wild. But he does have a full no move clause. He has a no move clause. So 7 years remaining at 11.6. I don't think that moves the, like, he's a fantastic player when he's on his game, but like you have just talked about, like the recent history, there's a lot going on there, which I don't know if you want to necessarily bring into your win now window.
If he can get his game together, he's marvelous. If there's something wrong here, then it's a problem. Looks like at 1:01 p.m., Brody just said that the no move clause, I think he's talking for Pettersson, kicks in tomorrow, which is entirely possible.
Okay.
But again, that's a contract. That's a lot of a contract. That's a lot. You got to be very sure there.
Especially because you're going to be extending Kirill, hopefully, and then you have two guys.
That's the thing, though, is so Tarasenko might have idolized, or I'm sorry, Kirill might have idolized Tarasenko, But that being said, with Rossi in flux, what is your sales pitch now? Hey, we got more Russians for you. I mean, I guess he might like that. And certainly with the fact that the CBA is going to change or has mightily changed how contracts are done now, as far as years go, like Kirill can sign. If Kirill signs with the Wild tomorrow, he'll get 8 years here.
Yeah.
So if he had decided to hit the market previously in 26, so July 1st of next year, he could have gotten 7 years. He can't now. If he hits the market on July 1st, 2026, he gets 6 years because the max for a player that you retain is 7 years starting on July 1st of 26. And the max that you can sign for outside of your own team because you became a free agent is 6 years. So there are financial incentives for sure with where the new CBA is going for Kirill to stay here. But I also think that you would have to give him a sales pitch. And this also comes back to a conversation we had previously, which is, might he say, I don't want 6 years. I'll do 4 years. Let's see what you guys are doing. I want to see this because that certainly doesn't reward him as much financially, but it gives him a hammer to say, not good enough. So in 3 years, he forces a trade. Like there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of moving parts, but I think it's very fair to say with the way that the market has gone and with the way the Rossi thing has gone, that as we walk up to 11 a.m. tomorrow, this has not gone as anyone, I would say, in the fan base or inside the X, which is now Grand Casino, I believe, arena.
Yes.
That it has not gone as anybody expected it was going to.
No, not at all. I mean, I think like we talked about on the morning show today, which was, if you haven't listened, feel free to, which was like, I'm sure they had a long list of different routes and kind of trees branching. Like if we do this, these 3 moves or whatever can potentially be what we do. And it's just been like chopping off branch after branch after branch. And now you're looking at like just a stump. Like you're just looking at a barren tree in the backyard. And there's not a lot they can do. So, but it does go back to the question of like what changed this weekend. Now they feel like now the market maybe is set. And do they feel with the potential move maybe waiting in the wings, do they think now is like the best time we can get some sort of trade just package back that is better than what's going to be offered in the qualifying offer?
Yeah. Well,
like you have to get something better than that, right?
I would say this. I would say that on Besser and Ehlers in particular, they didn't like the term, and I get that. But the problem is, you can't be surprised. The market is so diluted right now. Those guys are going to get a ton. Now, yeah. Granlund, if he want, I don't put him in that bin. I don't really want him back here. We discussed that about a month ago with Jesse Pierce, who, by the way, will join us on Wednesday. So, but when it comes to those two, they clearly decided that the market is too rich. But that's what happens. Like I'm not in favor of you making a mistake. I'm a little bit. I do think we should slow our roll a little bit on the Parise and Suter comparisons. They signed 13-year contracts. You can't sign anything close to that now. So like when it's like when the justification is, well, we're not going to make that mistake again. Look at the Parise and Suter contracts Chuck Fletcher signed. It's like, yeah, those were for 13 years. And I don't know that I love getting older players who are on the decline, which Tarasenko, unless he proves us wrong, which a lot of times guys don't. I don't know that I find that to be that palatable. There was a comment a couple of minutes ago about the Buffalo thing and why the Sabres would want Rossi when they didn't want to trade
I think
Peterka.
From Preston here.
Yeah. Preston says, for those of you who are consuming this on the podcast, why would Buffalo take Rossi plus for Tage? They didn't want Rossi for JJ Peterka because of his size. That's what I'm saying. You would have to throw in, because if you toss in Ogren, Rossi, and a high draft pick, that's a pretty good offer. If you are indeed shopping Tage Thompson, that's the question. Like how aggressively? We don't know that, but I also think it's fair to say Bill Guerin has pressure to go very big game hunting right now. Because if you don't if you don't end this with a massive upgrade at center, and you now also have tapped out on Besser, Ehlers, and you come away tomorrow with Tarasenko and I don't know, Christian Dvorak, your fan base is going to yawn and say, what the hell? Now, to the point that we brought up before, if you're just joining us, we have both been tipped off that there might be another move, another trade coming, which I would expect would be a Rossi trade. Watch, it'll be some slappy from Iowa being traded. So
The
this
rights
day-
to Justin Brazeau.
yeah, exactly. So this day might not be done yet. Hopefully it's not. But if you're going to throw Ogren in a trade, unless Ogren's name around the league is like just been stomped on, like, oh man, he can't play, which I don't think is true.
Yeah.
Liam Ogren, Marco Rossi, a high draft pick, is a pretty damn good offer. And I will say this, there's no way on God's green earth that Guerin talked to Buffalo about Ogren and Rossi for Peterka.
Yeah, that's not where the conversation started.
Right. It would be Marco Rossi for Peterka. Somebody might throw in a sweetener.
Yes.
But I guarantee you it was not, hey, take these assets off my hand. You don't like Rossi that much? We're going to give you Rossi, Ogren, high draft pick. That's a conversation reserved for, in my opinion, far more elite proven performers than JJ Peterka.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like we're in a waiting game here of like what they're going to do, what maybe they won't do. But yeah, you're exactly right. Like the call, obviously, how much they wanted and still do. They're seeking out a number one center. I'm sure there was a lot of back and forth, and then probably what was being pulled. And maybe now this is hindsight of it. Now that I'm like realizing this is, it probably has shifted to, okay, we're going to do
right
Rossi plus, and then like how much plus, like how much is Bill Guerin willing to like move on the plus side of things for a Peterka,
right?
But yeah, now it feels like you have to do quite a bit extra because they've already stated we don't want a guy of that size, so you really have to blow their pants off here.
Right. Well, and it might be elsewhere. I will say, just to be clear though, I still don't like the Tarasenko trade. So just as a whole, like if this was your move to fill a spot, I think I would have liked to have seen somebody younger, somebody who, Tarasenko in his prime was awesome, but so was Heatley. And by the time you got him, he was broken down. So, and look, if it was Tarasenko at 1 year for like 2.5 or so, I'd probably be like, okay, I don't love this, but I feel like 1 year at 4.8, are you going to demote him if he's not good?
No, this is your new Marcus Johansson.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like, are you going to demote him? And now Marcus Johansson, sure as hell is going to take up a third line spot, which I also don't know if I love. He's back for cheaper, but with the stunts that he pulls in the regular season of completely disappearing, I do not like where this is going. We'll see what transpires. Hey, last question from me for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing this name thrown out there. Your thoughts on Braden Point?
Funny enough, a guy that they could have had on draft night, however long ago. That's the infamous Fletcher and crew kind of just like looked over at the Lightning table. They were like, you just want to swap picks for fun. And granted, I think they took some defenseman who never was it Ferraro, like, or something like that? I have no idea, but could have had him on draft night, decided not to. I think, how old is he now? Is he's got to be 30 something, right? Am I trying to pull up Tampa Bay's stuff here? Really good player and a guy that I think would be fun. He is 29. Yeah. 29, and he's making $9.5 million through the 29-30 season.
Give me a stats.
I would say initial reaction, I don't think I would trade Marco Rossi for him. But let's see. Last year with Tampa Bay, he played 77 games. That can't be right. Okay. This can't be right.
Okay.
He scored 50 goals 3 years ago?
He had a really good year.
Okay,
Yep.
I maybe I'm thinking of a different brain point or something, but
No,
yeah,
there's no
40,
different brain
42
point.
goals, 40
Brain
points
point.
last year for brain point. I might be eating my words. He's been a point per game player for the last
Yeah, he's a
3
good player.
seasons.
Yeah,
I didn't
he
realize
cost
he
you a
was
lot.
that impactful. I mean, I know they had the dynasty going. I didn't.
He cost you a lot. 1:12 p.m. Can you throw up the Urban, who's a
Sure
and
can.
we appreciate it, a frequent watcher, listener to our shows. He says it's 1 year for the Wild to buy time because, well, free agency is cooked, and they're just saying whatever. I guess that's the whole point, though. That's the whole point. It's another year of shrug emoji. Like that's the thing. It's another year of, okay, you know what? We'll have Tarasenko off the books. And next, hold on a second, you guys. This just in. Craig Leopold meant July 1st of 2026. That's what he meant. Like, I think the fan base is sick and tired of this. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. And so you can only kick the can down the road X amount of times.
Yeah,
I get it's 1 year, but he is, and I saw a comment here too that he's still good. Folks, he had 11 goals in 80 games. He's minus 13. He had 1 power play goal. And you could say, well, Detroit stunk. Well, guess what? He didn't help him one bit. 80 games. He was a freaking Iron Man. But for the fan base that says, hold on a second here, you know, there are a lot of people that spend a lot of money on this product. A lot. And I know that they love hockey, and I know that it's fun to go to games, but you know what's really fun? Playoff runs.
yeah.
Playoff runs are really fun. And this team has failed to put together a playoff run of significance since 2003, and they haven't been past the first round since 2015. So I'm not okay with, it didn't work. You know, yes, the market drying up stinks, and you can't control that. But what you can control is how you then adjust to that. And Vladimir Tarasenko at 34, taking up a top 2 line place, to me, is a problem unless you are about to deal Ogren in a trade that's going to land you a ton back. And if you say, you know, privately, if you say, Liam didn't really develop like we thought he would, then guess what? That's your fault. He's a first round pick.
Yeah.
So there's no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to go with the, well, they're going to buy more time and this is what happens. And like there's always an excuse. There's always an excuse for every team in this town when things don't go the way that they want. And I'm tired of it. I expect more. And if nothing else, if you are going to say, you know what, it's not working, we're sort of going to have to punt, then play the kids. Then don't make trades. Play the kids. I mean,
Here's
Liam
what
Olgren should either be traded immediately or he should be playing. And if Olgren's on this team and your top 4 wings are theoretically Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Boldy, and Tarasenko, and Olgren is now like 3rd line, 4th line, Iowa. I mean, come on. It's fine to be patient, but at some point that patience has to give way to, what are you doing?
Yeah, and apologies here if somebody hears that truck outside. Our AC's been out here for a week, and I
came in here.
Okay, perfect. First off, just to go back, Braden Point, yes, good player. I think now that I've actually looked at it, I'd be curious to know his stats when Nikita Kucherov isn't on the same line as him. I'd be curious about that, because when you're playing with a guy who's scoring 117 points a season, you're probably going to be really good. Sure. But when it comes down to it, when you're playing poker, you have to take a stab at some point. At one point, you have to go all in and just trust like the hand you're dealt is going to win you the pot. There's a lot of teams that have been really good that don't end up winning a Stanley Cup, but at least a lot of those teams have made moves that saying we are committed and we're backing this team and we think we have enough. Because honestly, you can also have some really good teams as well who make all the right moves and it looks like they're perfect, but then there's an injury or something like that happens. They run into just a team that gets hot. Look at Tampa Bay, whatever year they won the President's Trophy. In the first round, they lose to Columbus, who kind of just squeaked it. Like, you can have you have the perfect scenario. It doesn't always work out, but it seems like the kicking the can is the theme for the Minnesota Wild. For the longest time, we got to get superstars. We're going to get superstars. Well, guess what? They finally do. 13-year deals. At the time, superstars, right? Like that's what it was pawned off as. Now, hey, that didn't work out. We're still waiting. We got to get another guy. You finally get Kirill, but then it's okay. He signed again in Russia. We have to wait 3 years. Now he's finally here. And now you're at a point where this fan base has waited for the buyouts of those contracts for Parise and Suter to really allow them to start making moves. Well, now you can. And you said, hey,
no, look at Austin.
I'm gonna throw up Austin's here in a second.
Sorry,
but
I just saw that.
I saw that too. That's amazing.
Okay, thank you.
But now you've gotten to a point here where now you can make these moves. You're telling me that all of these things you've had in place and these chess pieces, you no longer believe in them if you're not willing to take a stab on a guy. And you know what? If they come out and say, you know what, we just don't feel like these are one of the right players, I'm going to probably scoff at that a little bit. But sure. I'm tired of looking to the next year for the UFA. Like I pulled it up. You have some guys there, but I don't want to be looking at Kyle Connor next year for like, that's their splash signing. At some point, the big signing has to come.
But what we're learning too is it might not get there. And don't devalue your own players. You devalued Marco Rossi by demoting him behind Freddie Gaudreau, who you just traded for a box of pucks, bag of pucks. I don't know what. Austin Shell says. Wings fan here. This is awesome. Wings fan here. Thank you for taking Tarasenko. Can you take Justin Hull too? Tampa Bay's finest, who got chased out of Toronto first and now in Detroit. But and there was a comment here, 1:18 p.m. from Cameron. Yes, Jaden says, the Minnesota can kickers. 1:18 from Cameron. He says, Sports Dad, I love you, but your wild takes have been horrible since the season ended. I'd be curious to know like what wild takes have been horrible. I don't even know. I don't think I've said much controversial. I think we both just talked about the fact that we thought they were going to do something. They haven't. I keep seeing like, let's see how Tarasenko does. Well, that's not a strategy. He's 34. Like, yes, if he's the comeback player of the year, then there's gold in their hip. But yet we don't know that. We don't know that. Dem their heels. We don't know that though. We don't know. Possible. Like the whole thing is, okay, let's see how he does. Let's see how Tarasenko does. If he's assured of a second line job, he better score 25 to 30 goals. And he's going to score, 15 to 20. Like this is not, again, when does your patience run out here? Like I've supported Bill Guerin. I like the guy personally. He's been on our show. And so this is nothing personal, but at what point in time does the patience run out here? When the owner says July 1st is going to be like Christmas. And then we get there and there's really nothing. And meanwhile, you've taken a player from your own team who was second in the regular season because Kaprizov was hurt and scoring. And you have literally devalued him. And that's what they did. That's what they did. We could talk about, well, it got out that Bill Guerin might not like his size or he doesn't want to pay him. Okay, that could all be fixed. You know what can't be fixed? His ice time in the playoffs. That can't be fixed. That is a flag, a red flag, like right there. So I guess my question is, why are you being so patient? For those of you who are being patient, why are we supposed to wait to see if a soon-to-be 34-year-old geriatric hockey player might be able to score goals like he used to when he was kicking the Wild's ass in St. Louis, which, by the way, it's been a while. I just feel like we've been through this before.
Yeah, and we have been. And Colin chimed in here, and I'm trying to find it. How about let's see how the young players do? Well, Colin, I would love if you have the direct line to Bill Guerin's front office and John Hines' office in the bowels of the former XL Energy Center, now Grand Casino Arena.
Doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
That doesn't. It doesn't.
The X was perfect. And by the way, it's going to be very hard to quit calling it the X. I will probably forget that for 6 months, and I really don't care much. Unless Grand Casino wants to advertise with Score North, in which case Grand Casino and their arena are outstanding.
Oh, it's one of my favorite casinos in the area, for sure. I would love to see how some of these young players do, but the problem is now you're at a point, I think, too, where you've crossed a threshold, especially with this trade that says there's not really going to be a chance for you to see what Liam Ogren really has. You got a couple games of him last season when people came up or went down with injuries. You saw what he had, and they clearly, in what they've seen in practice and down in Iowa, just aren't thrilled. I mean, I would love to see more of it. Maybe I just need to start watching more of the Iowa Wild. That I think that's the only time I'm going to see a lot of these young guns really play, because it's certainly not going to be with the big clubs. So if they want to give the reins to some of these younger guys, by all means, I would be advocating for that big time. But we've just seen time and time again, they don't feel comfortable doing so.
1:22 p.m. There's a comment about Brock Besser that I agree with, but I think we should throw it up there if you can find it, because we can talk about it a little bit.
Is it this one right here?
Yes.
Let's get it.
So this comment from Let's Get It says Besser isn't saving the franchise. None of the free agents were going to do that. I don't disagree. And if you didn't want to pay Besser too much, I get that. But let's independently then think about this, okay? So you need to go get another wing who can score some goals. And you just got Tarasenko. That was your answer? I'm not looking to save the franchise. I am looking to get a scoring winger who is not on the precipice of playing in a beer league. That's what I'm looking for. So I understand that. And I, you know what, if Brock Besser, he's going to get a ton of term if he wants it, and money, because he and Ehlers are really, I think, the two best parts left, at least from a forward standpoint. But yeah, read this one. This is good.
Tabis Lowell says Victor Rask is next in ? Yes, bring him back. I think he's over in Europe right now.
I did see a question or a statement. I forget who it was from, so forgive me, but I think it's tainting my view as well about Gus Nyquist. And yes, that influences me. Like, you went out and traded a draft pick that you could have used to sign an RFA, because you have to have your own pick. You traded a draft pick for a guy who gave you nothing. And the other problem is, and this is the problem with the coaching staff, once he was there, you didn't demote him. Like, Gus Nyquist was begging to sit by us in the press box, right? Begging to. So here's the thing. If some of you are right and Tarasenko scores 50 goals, God bless you. That's awesome. But if Tarasenko scores 12 goals, I think he just stays second line, maybe third line, and JoJo comes up. Like, think about this. This is where we've gotten into the vicious cycle. So my fear isn't just the Tarasenko, who, by the way, is aging. We all do. Yeah. But if he's not effective, Gus Nyquist, as the template, told you John Hines was not going to move him. You put Marco Rossi on the fourth line. You raved about how well the big guys were playing, Brazeau and Trennan. You raved about them, but then neither one could get promoted because you had to play Gus Nyquist, who, by the way, cost you a game in the playoffs because he went offside, which was, I don't care what you say, inexcusable. So this is where I'm concerned. Am I worried that a struggling Vladimir Tarasenko will not be demoted? Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. He played 80 games last year with Detroit. Right now, I think it's fair to say this is a D grade trade. Like, this is bad. This looks bad. But what sort of stats does he need to put up, point wise, goal wise, to make you say, you know what? I'm gonna eat my words here. Like, egg on my face. What a move, what a masterclass by Bill Guerin. Is it 15, 20 goals, 25 goals? Is it 40 points or more? Like, where do you think you feel that is like a worthwhile trade that they just made today?
Okay, so let me see here. So 2 years ago, we just got a comment about this. 2 years ago, playing for Ottawa and Florida, 23 goals, 32 points, 32 assists, in 76 games, 55 points. I need no fewer than 25 goals, which he has last scored in 2021-22 when he had 34 goals. I need 25 goals from him.
Okay.
25 goals. The points I'm not as concerned about. I need the goal scoring. And here's the thing. Okay, let's look at this. Power play goals. In the year that he scored, I just told you a couple of years ago, he scored 23 goals. He had 3 power play goals. I need more than that as well.
Well, I bet you he's going to get time at least on the power play 2 unit, you'd expect, right? Like,
oh, Christ, Hines might have all forwards out there again. Who knows? I don't know.
But he's going to be running points.
I need 25 goals. I need 25 goals. I'm just not willing to, like, we're acting like the year in Detroit was like, just forget about it. People, this is an aging hockey player. Like aging players who decline, you can't just blame circumstances. We're acting like we're it's as if this is the Blues Tarasenko. He was banished to Siberia, in this case Detroit, and had a bad year, and it was all the Red Wings' fault. You sure about that? You sure it's them? You sure it's all on them? So that's my point. And he's also, the other problem is, as I said before, if he struggles, he's going to block somebody. He's going to block somebody. We keep having these grand conversations, especially you, because you're a prospect guy. You're the prospect head at JHS. And, we keep
Short
talking
department.
about how the prospect pool is flush, right? And all these kids that are coming up. And then when they come up, unless their name's Brock Faber, we don't see them. Or they get demoted. Or they get scratched. This just to me is incredibly frustrating. And let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But I'm not going to just blindly sign off on this trade and say, they didn't give up much. It's not much cap hit. First of all, I think it is actually if you're trying to win now. Because again, if he eats up $4.8 million of cap room and doesn't contribute, that's a sizable chunk of cap room. He will be the fourth highest paid forward.
Yes.
Fourth highest paid forward.
I see the rationale is like, okay, maybe this sets up for a good center addition. Like this is now where it's going to be. My biggest frustration is for weeks now, the way that my mind has been working. I think maybe I've just talked myself into the way they have to go about it is you had the chance to sign a impact winger who's going to score goals. There's a couple of them. There's still a couple of them on the market. It looks like that's just no longer in the cards by any means for the Wild. So now you're going to settle for a very less than winger in the potential. We just don't know. Like I said, by the end of the day, there's a really big potential that they somehow pull off the move of the century. Bill Guerin, GM of the year already by July 1st at midnight. Like you never know.
Yeah.
I just don't think the way that this team has been going, the way the past 48 hours with the draft and everything, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. So I feel like they're already settling and setting up this buys us time. And, next year we're going to know exactly what we have for an extension with Kirill. So we know exactly how much money we have to work with and we can really go out and get our guy. And it's just one of those.
I know.
Oh,
It's yeah. So anyway, all right. Should we take a break? It feels like we're going to get. It feels like we got hit by the first storm, and there's another storm on the back end. So be puck aware, folks. But let's take a break. If we do get a second move, we'll go live again. It sounds like it might take place at some point here. But yeah, I think we've spoken our piece. Appreciate all of the folks who joined us, commented. You might agree with us. You might not. It's a community, though, and that's what makes sports great. I'm Judd. He's AJ. Hopefully see you later today.